So, Barry, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, obviously, I want to kind of get you to repeat. I know I heard you talking then when you was playing with Andy. Obviously, this is kind of the birthplace of Matchroom. I heard you talking about.
Yeah,
How precious is this as a place to you?
I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you and without this place and Steve Davis. So those two things were sort of hand in hand. But you have to go back. I was in my early 30s. I'd made some money, married, children. Life was sweet, and I spent most of my adult hours in this place playing snooker. I mean, I played for money. I was never a great player, but I was a money player and I was reasonable. But we used to play. I mean, I played matches in here in 1976, 77 for £6,000 a side. Now, 1977, you buy a house for £6,000, and we would be playing. I would put my £6,000 down on the table, and the bloke I used to play was a bloke called Bobby Laser, Mark Lazarus's brother, terrific guy, and he would bring 100 mates, and they'd all put in 50 or 60 quid, and we'd start at 10 and we'd finish at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, this is like, from a working class boy, this is living the dream, It was fun, it was exciting. I won some and lost some. But when Steve came onto the scene in 75 to play in what was called the Lucania National, which was an open snooker event for members of the Lucania snooker chain, which I part owned. From that stage on, good players used to come to Romford, and Steve would come to Romford. So we attracted good players, and good players attracts more good players. It's like small fish and big fish. So once I see, obviously, that Davis had potential, I used to like to gamble a little bit, or more than a little bit in my early years. So I used to back him in all the matches, and we'd bring down Alex Higgins, Ray Reardon, John Spencer, Doug Mountjoy, and subsequently, Jimmy White and Dennis Taylor. And we'd play matches in this room with no air conditioning, with no windows, with no fire escape. We'd bench seating, which 300 people used to come in. We used to bring a few comedians down, because in the interval we would have a comedian stand up for 15 minutes while the players got a rest, and the matches were legendary. I mean, legendary. People like Alex Higgins would walk in, and the first question he would ask here was, "What price am I?" I'd say, "Well, you're 4 to 6, or you're 6 to 4." And he'd go, "Right, how much am I on?" "Well, your fee's £500. Right, I'll have that plus." And then he'd go through all his pockets, and once he gave me a handful of change and said, "Call that £1." He had every single penny on him, and he never once won in Romford. But the standard of snooker was, people still talk about it today. We did one 4-day match here between Davis and Alex Higgins, best of 65 frames over 4 days. It was brutal, virtually 100 break every frame. But the table that was in here, which I've still got, I called it Steve's table, he was never, ever beaten on all the matches he ever played. So he would get £25 a night appearance fee, and then I'd give him a bonus out of the gambling, which usually came to a lot more than that. But he was just getting the experience that was subsequently to make him one of the great players in the world.
Yeah. Obviously, we're here kind of talking about the US Open. Obviously, yourself, you're going to get to play. How
Yeah.
excited are you to actually be a part of it?
Like a child waiting for Christmas. I think you have to understand, my life's always been all about sport, but on the other side of the ropes,
Yeah.
So whereas I've always been okay at sport, I've never been great at sport. So, I was okay snooker, I was okay boxing, I was okay pool, but this is my chance to go on the other side of the road. And I'm a very sensible, realistic person. I'm 76 years old. I haven't played competitive pool for 50 years. In my middle 20s, I used to play, I was in another business then, but I used to play money matches, 9-ball pool, in Los Angeles, San Francisco and New York. And they were some of the greatest nights of my life. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was wild. It was a wild time, we was in San Francisco one night, and we stopped playing at 6 o'clock, and there was a dispute in the area between the Afro-Caribbeans and the Puerto Ricans, and I left at 6 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock the Puerto Ricans came in with AK-47s and smashed the place to bits. And I got back the next day, there was bullets still in my table that I was playing on. So, but that sort of electricity when you're young and you don't care. It's now I'm not young. I'm 76. I do care, but I love the game. I've always thought 9-ball pool has never really been exploited properly, which is why Matchroom are doing more and more 9-ball pool all over the world. Because it's a game where you will fluke the odd ball because the pockets are big, but the technical side is a lifetime's work to learn. You know, even great players like Steve Davis, who played a good game of pool, I would say to him, why don't you play more pool? He said, Barry, these guys are seeing shots that I don't even see. He said, it's a completely different game. But for Matchroom, it's our next big investment. We think it's going to be the next darts. We think it's going to spread globally as it is at the moment. And for me to actually promote a sport, I need to be passionate about it, which I am. I need to know something about it. I need to actually be in the shoes of the players on the other side of the ropes. I need to feel that adrenaline. And I'm very aware that I stand a great chance of being totally humiliated. But what everyone will know that knows me will know that I will give every ounce of knowledge, every ounce of brain power, every ounce of bottle to be the best I can be. And that's all I've ever tried to do in my life. I just want to be the best I can be. But I needed this opportunity. And I am now like a kid waiting to unwrap a Christmas present. I want to walk in to the Gambler, my theme song. You know, I've already designed my clothes. They're being prepared. Every part, I have my sponsors in place, as you'd expect. Every part of my preparation, from the moment I wake up that morning on Sunday to fly to New York, to transfer to Atlantic City, to play either on the Monday or the Tuesday, and to be mentally sharp and knowledgeable enough to know this is not going to end well. But I want that adrenaline rush once in my life, and forgive me for an old man's dream, but I'm going to make sure I get that rush that I've never had.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned there about Matchroom kind of growing sports into mainstream. You look at the darts, you look at the boxing. Is that something you really can see Paul growing into in the next kind of 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, you see, being an accountant, of course, I'm very influenced by numbers. So I look at it and say, well, look, there's 32 million pool players in the USA that play once a month. I look at the data and the stats coming from around the world. Because of the American influence on 9-ball and 8-ball pool, but mainly 9-ball, which is the historic game, it's played all over the world. It's played in far more countries than snooker or billiards or anything else. So why not? And the answer is, the reason why not is because there isn't an end goal for the player to achieve his wishes and to change his life through sport, which is the maxim of all sport. Why do you do sports? Why do you take up sport? Yes, you love it. Of course you love it. Otherwise you wouldn't sacrifice, would you? And God's given you some ability. It's great. But where some sports go wrong, and I make sure we don't, it has to be financially linked to the stage that you can change your life via sport. Now, pool has never had the prize money. It's been mainly based on money matches and local competitions. What we're giving it now is with the World Championships that took place in Saudi Arabia. The World Cup of pool is going to take place in Qatar. We have the Hanoi Open. We have tournaments all over the world registered to the World 9-Ball Tour, which is a new organisation, saying to the players, this year we'll put up $5 million of prize money. Next year we're going to try and make it 10. Come with us on the journey. Sacrifice yourself to be entertaining, to be proficient, to be professional, and let's see where we can take this. Because if you'd have said to a darts player 15 years ago, who was playing for £500,000 a year, total prize money across all the events in a year, one day, Bazza's going to give you £20 million a year. They'd say, I don't believe it. This season, there'll be £20 million of prize money on professional darts. Darts players will be earning millions upon millions. We're going to start seeing a shift where darts becomes bigger than golf. Put that in your head, young man, because it's been a wonderful achievement. And once you know how to do it, and once you have the energy and the drive and the passion to take no prisoners, nothing's going to stand in our way. We will pull every stroke. We will get every sponsor, every broadcaster buying into this. Now we need players, and there are tens of thousands of them. So we've got our own ranking list. And there's an opportunity for everyone from a level playing surface to just begin on day one. And if he wins the US Open, he'll be seeded in the top 20. And if he wins the World Championships, he'll be seeded number 1. So the structure's in place, the players are in place, the commercialisation's in place. What can stop us?
Yeah. And I was talking this kind of off topic a tad. I was talking to Luke Humphries the other day. He was talking about kind of Q sports, darts in particular. The Olympics is coming up.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a place for the Olympics?
No. Listen, don't go down that old road. That's such an old story. The reason why it's an old story is the Olympics. Look, the Olympics in its purest form is the most wonderful sporting occasion. But that's all changed, hasn't it? We've got snowboarding, we've got synchronised swimming. Come on. And by the way, all the things I told you was wrong about sport, where you've got to give huge financial rewards to sportsmen and women to make them sacrifice their life to entertain us. That's the secret. None of these sports in the Olympics make any money for the participants. The image of the Olympics, the medal, the ceremony, is what keeps the Olympics alive. Because if you were sat as a Martian, come down on this earth and said, shall I go in the Olympics? Why? Have you ever tried to eat a medal? You break your teeth on it. These guys need cash. And the Olympics movement hates that. So the idea of them having darts, and why not, by the way? Darts is probably the fastest growing sport in the world. Going crazy everywhere. From a participation point of view, of course they should have darts. Of course they should have snooker. Of course they should have pool. Why haven't they got it? They haven't got their evil little hands on it. That's why. You know, they want to control things for the love of the sport. I want to control things for the opportunity to give to people, particularly working class people there where I came from. I want to see them change their life through this. I'm seeing it in darts and it gives me so much pleasure. I'm proud of the job we've done. Put it in the Olympics. Can you honestly imagine 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pints a day at the Olympics? I don't think it goes down too well because they're all snobs. They're all in a straitjacket. They've got a blazer. They love their blazers, but they don't do anything. So I think I'm not bothered at all about the Olympics. I'm not trying to get Olympics. I'm not interested in the Olympics. I'm interested in building people's lives.
Yeah. And kind of another one from me, obviously we're in the middle of the match play,
Yeah.
Van Gogh and Littler the other night.
Oh,
Obviously it was
yeah.
an incredible match of darts. It was kind of some criticism aimed at Littler after. Do you think that's very harsh considering he averaged like 101, 102 and just lost to one of the best players in the world?
The trouble is when you're dealing with geniuses, and I think Luke Littler is, and I think Michael Van Gerwen is as well, you set the bar ridiculously high, you know, because plenty of players played great, averaging 90, you know. These guys were averaging up to 110, 115 on occasions, and they can do magical things, you know, which entertain us. So I think I've only sat down with him once. I think he's a very sensible young man. I think he's got a good team around him, giving him the right advice. Look, he's 17 years old. He's probably earned £1 million since January, you know. Not too bad, not too shabby for a little guy from work. But that's exactly the message we want to put out there. So all the other Luke Littlers in the world say, I'll give that a go. You know, maybe you don't like football. Maybe you don't want to go to a boxing. Maybe you want to put a dartboard up in your bedroom and smash it. And then when you're ready, go on the developmental tour and see if you can nick a few quid and then get that buzz. It doesn't happen for everybody. There's only one Luke Littler per, I don't know, X million darts players. And there's only one Michael Van Gerwen, there's only one Luke Humphries. These are all great players, and they'll have days when they're slightly below par. Even I do. I know, I hate to admit weakness, but even occasionally, no, it's not true, I don't ever have a weak day, no. We love what we do. You can't criticise geniuses because they're not. It's like me criticising Ronnie O'Sullivan. It would be wrong because he's a genius and I'm not. So I've got to allow him his own freedom because he's a creative person in his own right. Might annoy me, might upset me, but I've got to accept it. You know, every genius is impossible to handle because they're so original. You know, I watched an excellent documentary on Daley Thompson I think yesterday. A fabulous documentary about a fabulous sportsman, but also such a complex piece of work as well. And people saying, oh, it's a shame he was like this, it's a shame he was like that, you know. So no, that's what made him great to start with. And you've got to understand this world. It's not our world. We're the recipients of being entertained. So Luke Littler gets beat 10-6 or whatever it was by Michael Van Gerwen. A couple of moments during the game where it could have been 10-6 the other way round. And when they play next week or the week after or the week after that, but it entertains. It keeps us. The aim at Matchroom is always to sell tickets, right? Whether you're a viewer, I look on viewers as buying tickets because they're bought a subscription or they're bought, you know. So I want to sell everybody a seat to a Matchroom event. And I want to guarantee them that they're not going to need the whole seat. They're only going to need the edge of it.
Yeah.
And that's the principle of entertaining sport.
Yeah. And just a final couple for me, Barry. Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, we've got Anthony Joshua facing Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, good fight.
Massive.
Massive.
It's like
Yeah.
Liam Gallagher performing. It's like a huge.
I know.
Joshua's in great form. Kind of. Do you think he's going to be the man to kind of win the world title, become a 3-time champion?
Listen, I think so, but you know, in boxing, you're only ever one punch away from a disaster. I mean, we saw it with Andy Ruiz a few years ago. I mean, I don't know what price Joshua was, 25-1 on or something, and you know, bosh. See, it's Johnny Fisher language. Yeah, no. But look, the great thing is about it is as long as we create narrative between us, we discuss it, whether it's in a pub, whether it's on an interview, whether it's sitting around with your family.
Yeah.
Sport makes people talk. You know, look at the England Euros. I mean, goodness, the conversation and the dialogue that has created. And I think Joshua has a very good chance, because I think he's in a good mindset at the moment, a very good chance of becoming a 3-time world champion. And I think he's actually looking, to me, although I'm biased because I like him a lot, looking at the best I've ever seen him. But Daniel Dubois had a few upsets along the way, but he's bounced back very well. So he's a young man, and he's living his dream, and he's going to try everything, and he's going to be dangerous. So it does come down to when you put, and I always think top sportsmen are all geniuses. I love them all, I worship them, but it's going to come down to who's the most genius, if you like. And that involves who wants it more, who's fitter, whose technique is good, preparation, mental approach. It's so complicated. I just want to watch the fight because I start getting a headache. You know, when is Tyson Fury going to fight Anthony Joshua? I've been asking that question for 5 years. I have no idea, but I'm sure it will happen one day. And in the meantime, let's be entertained by some of the product that's coming out on the boxing front. Is in my lifetime, I've never seen such quality fights in depth. You know, and I have to say that His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh that's putting together all this, and he has an imagination. I mean, someone smart once said we're only limited by our own imagination, and it's perfectly true. And he has a vision and a dream of the type of show he wants to do, and I'm just pleased to get a free ticket.
And just two more from me. Obviously, you've been in boxing for a very long time, or you have been in boxing a very long time. Can you name me the 5 greatest boxers of all time, in your opinion?
Jesus.
Sorry, I have to put you on the spot.
Well, yeah, he's a bit on the spot. I mean, I can obviously give you Ali to start with because he's right up there. I'd probably go Marvin Hagler. I would probably go Jack Dempsey. I would probably go Mike Tyson. And then there's a huge number that you can pick 1 or 2 out of any day of the week and it'd be a different. I might have been overkind to Marvin Hagler. Sugar Ray Leonard would be probably saying, no, what about me? You know, so there's been some real big quality. And the thing about boxing is, although not huge numbers of people participate in boxing, nothing really gets the public imagination more than a big fight. You know, and I think Dubois against Joshua at Wembley is a big fight. But more importantly for me as a punter is it's an even fight. So I'm not going to see, you know, me fight you, or, you know, not saying you wouldn't beat me that easy, but, you know, but you know what I'm saying is, but the undercard is full of fights that I want to be at. You know, all my life I've turned up at major fights around the world, and half an hour before the main event, the arena is still virtually empty. And that's because those fans got used to the fact that there was pretty poor undercards, weren't competitive. They basically just filling up space on the card. Today, I don't want to miss. I won't watch rubbish, don't get me wrong. But when I look at cards, and not just on Eddie's, some of the other promoters as well, very rarely in comparison to Eddie, but nevertheless they deserve a call out. Everyone's got to keep working like that. Unfortunately, although people criticise Saudi money, etc., they've changed the face of boxing. They've changed fighters' lives. And that can't be bad, can it? I mean, isolate yourself in just, we're talking about boxing. We're not talking about, I don't know, oil wars or whatever. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about boxing. They've added a huge amount and they've changed the face of boxing. And I think that's going to have a very beneficial effect on the entertainment value that we as punters get for the price of our ticket.
Yeah, and just the final one, obviously you've got a clear passion for the sport. Matchroom is booming right now. What do you see for the future of Matchroom?
Well, I mean, global domination, isn't it? That's our phrase. That's all we ever talk about is we want to dominate every market we're in. So, you know, we own the darts, we own the snooker, we own the pool. No one can really own boxing because there's always kids coming out. You know, someone will turn up from Soweto or something, and he's the best featherweight you've ever seen. These things happen in boxing, but on other sports, you know, we used to do lots and lots and lots, and I think we've grown up a little bit as a company because we have got, you know, we're one of the biggest sports promotion companies in the world, and we now want to concentrate on getting our legacy sorted, which is to create, in particular for darts, to create a sport in darts that rivals and surpasses golf. I've always got a bit of a chip on my shoulder about blue-collar sports, working-class sports, because that's me. That's what I love. I love golf, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't spread enough. It's not a level playing field enough for me. In my world, ability is the only criteria. I don't care where you came from, what you look like, you know, I don't care. I just care what you do on the field of play. And my job is to give you that opportunity. And I think we'll just get with Eddie and Frank Smith, Emily Fraser, Matt Poulter. We've got a fantastic team. I'm proud to say I put them all together, you know. Me now, I'm sort of more floating, trying to play a bit of pool, having a sneaky week off in Atlantic City, you know. But we're very passionate about what we do, and financially it's good for us, and our job is to make it financially good for the people that participate.
Thank you so much, Barry.
My pleasure. Great pleasure. Thank you, mate.